sets, you will find that the opportunities in the areas which are unheard of 10 years or 15 years ago are available to you. The kind of expanse in the opportunity game, so to speak, and the gradings which are available within those opportunities itself, depending upon your skill set and your rate of upgradation of your skill set, you will get opportunities lifelong and you can really thrive. Third thing, which is equally important, when you are working in a familiar surroundings with your friends and families near you, your productivity significantly goes up. And this is a holistic way of living life rather than going abroad and earning something and then staying and following the lifestyle of Western world and maybe sending certain amount of money back at home for whatever requirements are there. And that is your one part of the heart is always is stationed in your native place. Even those who come to city, first opportunity they get, they will go to their native villages, spend a week or 2 weeks, recharge their batteries and then come back. So they are in cities exploring opportunities which are essential or which is necessary. Fortunately, with the growth of the Indian economy and GDP, the opportunities which were available only in the cities, the same kind of opportunities now are available in 2-tier, 3-tier cities as our towns as well. And the number is ever increasing. So the title of Brain Retain is an obvious now, which needs to be looked at. And I think if through this seminar, you make people aware, the students aware of the kind of opportunities which are available, then it would have served the purpose of the seminar. My compliments to Madhavi and the team for actually arranging such seminar and this seminar, and then I can see almost 60-65 participants are there. It's great to see that these many participants are still there in spite of the fact is today is Raksha Bandhan, and I'm sure many of you are waiting to go and meet your sisters or brothers. So I wish you all the very best on this Raksha Bandhan, but do listen to the seminar and I'm sure it will be a benefit for your future career. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your encouraging words and your support always. Thank you so much. Now I request respected principal of VS College of Arts, Science and Commerce, Dr. Anita Kanwar, to address the participants. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Madhavi. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. Before I officially welcome guests and participants, I would like to congratulate all the fellow Indians for completing glorious 75 years of Azadi. Honorable Speaker, Dr. Suniti Nagpurkar, Dr. Shamlan Reshambala, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Institute of Chemical Technology, Dr. Aniruddha Pandit, participants, teachers, and invited guests. Warm welcome to you all for a very interesting session on Brain Retain India, the land of enormous opportunities. Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav is an initiative of the Government of India to celebrate and commemorate 75 years of independence and the glorious history of its people, culture, and achievements. We have come a long way after independence, especially in the last 2 decades. The progress that India has made is tremendous. We are competing with very powerful countries on all fronts. The opportunities available have changed the scenario from brain drain to brain gain. So let me congratulate ICT and our team to come up with an innovative initiative of having a webinar on such an interesting and apt topic. We wish both the institute good luck for the same. Thank you, Madhavi and Meghana.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your motivational words and the support. Thank you very much. We further move on to the theme and coverage of the program, for which I invite the co-organizer of this program, Dr. Meghana Sanjeeva, to introduce the theme and coverage of the program. Over to you, Meghana.
Meghana, you are not audible.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yes, 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 you are.
Sorry for that. Good afternoon, everyone. Brain Retail, India, a land of enormous opportunities. This webinar intends to unfold the economic and social progress that the country has made in the last 75 years and is poised to be an emerging economic power today. Youth are the most important and dynamic segment of the population in any country. This webinar intends to bring forth the opportunities that our country has today for the youth in the areas of higher education, research, job market, and entrepreneurship. This webinar will touch upon funding aspects and present inspirational pep talks by young dynamic professionals who have been working in India, are at leadership positions in their organizations or entrepreneurs, and are equivalent to their global counterparts and therefore enjoying the best of both the worlds. It is believed that countries with large youth population could see tremendous growth provided they invest in young people's education, health, and protect and guarantee their rights, and hence the young minds will be retained in the country and will contribute further to the socio-economic development. With various policies and schemes launched by our government like Skilled India, Digital India, Make in India, Startup India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, and the NEP 2020, we can undoubtedly say that India is on the right track, and hence our today's young are tomorrow's innovators, creators, builders, and leaders. With this positive note, we now begin with the first session of our webinar, which will set the ball rolling for this program. It is indeed my proud privilege to introduce our speaker, Dr. Suniti Nagpurkar. Dr. Suniti Nagpurkar holds a master's degree in economics, a diploma in higher education, diploma in rural development, and a PhD in economics from the University of Mumbai. She joined the world of academics to follow her passion for teaching and research. And since then, she has taught at graduate, postgraduate, and at management programs in colleges under Mumbai University. She has retired as the head of the Department of Economics of our college, VES College of Arts, Science and Commerce. Currently, she is a visiting faculty and a corporate trainer at Wellinger Institute of Management Development and Research. She has conducted about 100 management training programs for various corporate clients. From the early 1980s, she started her research activity, combining it with teaching, and produced research papers that have won state level awards for 3 consecutive years. at research paper competitions organized by prestigious business and industry organizations like the Maharashtra Chamber of Commerce. In 2003, her research paper on draft analysis of the industrial policy of Government of India won her an award at the national level at the hands of our then Prime Minister, Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji. Throughout her career, she has been participating at various local, national, and international seminars and has so far presented 22 papers in India and abroad. She has written 10 books for undergraduate programs for University of Mumbai and has also contributed chapters in various reference books. She has been a frequent guest contributor to articles on various economic issues and public policies in India, in Maharashtra Times, a group daily newspaper in Marathi. She has delivered more than 10 public lectures on the matter of budget of Government of India, issues of globalization, demonetization in Mumbai and in other parts of Maharashtra. Some of her noteworthy international assignments have been leadership training program for government employees of Tashkent in December 2018. She has been a faculty for International Students Exchange Program for students from USA, France, and China. Faculty for International Faculty Meet of various universities from USA, organized at the Wellington Institute of Management in 2011, 12, and 13. So we welcome you, ma'am, for this session. And at a personal level, she has been a very good mentor to all of us in our college and has enhanced our library. Ma'am, thank you for accepting our invitation and welcome to this session. Over to you.
Hello. Thank you, Meghna, for a very, very generous introduction. I could sense that, nostalgic feeling of reuniting on this occasion, and that was very nice, therefore, to hear you again. Well, as we begin, Honorable Vice Chancellor ICT, Dr. Anirudh Pandit, respected Principal of VS College, Dr. Anita Kanwar Madam, Vice Principal, Dr. Shantini Madam, the co-organizers of the webinar, Dr. Meghna Sanjiva and Madhavi Madam, and my co-speakers, many other dignitaries, faculties, and dear students. At the outset, I would actually like to congratulate the organizers for selecting such an apt theme at the most opportune time. In fact, India, the land of opportunities, enormous opportunities, it has always been so. We have been a land of opportunities in the past. Today, we are indeed the land of opportunity, and we will continue to be the land of opportunity. Actually, because India has been the land of opportunity, enormous opportunity, that we attracted the attention of people from all over the world, even in the past, and the rest is history. I recall having read one report which Lord Curzon in 1909, I hope you recall Lord Curzon, the first Viceroy of India. He had written to the British Crown about the importance of India in the entire British Empire. And he writes, and I quote, that central position of India, with the magnitude of its resources, with its excellent functioning harbors, with its teeming industrial population, and its strong army ready to be deployed anywhere in Africa or Asia, India indeed is a land of precious assets, very, very valuable to British Empire. He further says that with its position India can be a very strong influence on the Western side, on Afghanistan and then Persia, in the north for Tibet, and in the northeast, India would be a great pressure for China. Why I'm quoting this, that even today, the situation has not changed. India continues to enjoy that very strategic position and the capacity to influence the world around. Recently, I was reading one report in one context about India's foreign trade and things like that. It was a report commissioned by the government of Australia in cooperation with the Canberra University. And the report is kind of outlining and strongly recommending, urging the government of Australia that concentrate on India's specific strategy. So much so that by 2035, India should become a principal ally of Australia in Asian region. The report further argues that we meaning Australia, must concentrate on enhancing our foreign direct investment in India, develop people-to-people ties for cooperation, step up our trade, and by 2035, they have the target of making India their second most important trading partner. So whether it is history, whether it is future, India has been the center of enormous opportunities. But unfortunately, it looks like that it is the rest of the world that benefited more by opportunities that we hold than what we have benefited so far in India. The usual cliche that we always used to hear, particularly in the past, that India is rich, but Indians are poor. So it looks like that we, the people, who are the legitimate claimants of all these magnificent resources, of all these tremendous opportunities, we hardly benefited much, while it is the rest of the world that actually benefited. So India became a kind of a milking cow for them. Why? Is this going to change? Are the signs of change around? Why did it happen like that? If we have legitimate claims and rightful claims over these resources, why we couldn't really make best of it? And one simple answer is that we must understand that claims or rights have to be exercised. You have to be proactively using them. If you fail in that, it is others who will benefit out of it. And that's exactly what probably happened for a very large part of our history. So today I'm looking at this particular webinar in that context. And the speakers who spoke briefly before me kind of setting the tone for this seminar, the Honorable Vice Chancellor and the respected Principal Madam, both of them actually have given us a kind of a template. And my job, I thought, has been made simplified to that extent that I am going to use that template, the skeleton that they have provided. I'm just going to add some flesh to it and trying to find out what shape emerges and whether this shape is something that what we are actually looking up to. So again, congratulations for selecting this theme. And I'm extremely happy, feel honored, and it's my pleasure that you gave me this opportunity to associate with this particular seminar and allowing me to share my thoughts on the topic given to me. And the topic is India as an emerging economic power. Actually, when I was talking to Meghna madam, she put up a question, can India become an emerging power? Had this question been put to me maybe about 10, 15 years back, I may not have been so sure. But today, if again that question is put up to me, can India be an economic powerhouse? Can India actually be a strong emerging economic power and be the strong power in the world? And my answer without hesitation will be, well, is there any doubt? Any doubt? Koi shak hai? Absolutely no. I think it is all there in the air. You, for example, look at any world event that is happening around, any major world event, whether it is in the field of sports, whether it is Commonwealth Games just concluded, whether it is Tokyo Olympic, whether it is Paralympic, or in more serious world events and world incidents and situations like present ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Everywhere we find India is making its presence felt. In Russia-Ukraine war, you can see, and you must have seen it all through, so much pressure is being exercised on India to take a position. But India could remain steadfast with its neutral stance. You can recall how dignitaries from different parts of the world were constantly visiting India during that time, trying to pressurize India, but we stood our ground. Ultimately, what are the signs?
Excuse me. Yeah, madam, please put on the slideshow mode.
I have put it on slideshow mode.
I think just from the beginning, I need you need to click, or your screen has shrunk.
Shrunk?
Yeah, we are not able to see in the slideshow mode.
You are not able to see?
No, now we cannot see the PPT.
So just a minute.
Yeah, please reshare.
So what do I do now? I go back to...
Yeah, madam, you'll have to share again. I think you have stopped sharing, and then we can see.
Are you able to see my slides?
Yeah, it's fine now, ma'am. It's fine.
Okay. All right, all right. So, as I was saying, it's all there in the air. Not only the international clout that India has acquired, whether it is Russia-Ukraine war, whether it is the help that we are giving to Afghanistan, there again, that India is the only country which is allowed directly to deal with aid-giving agency without going via Doha and Qatar, which is what is the usual practice. Usually when India tries to trade its own way, there are so many sanctions that are imposed on us. For example, even now, when we decided to remain neutral in Russia-Ukraine war, pressures were being exerted on India. We did not yield, but USA kept itself away from imposing any sanctions on India, though India went on buying crude oil from Russia at much, much lower prices, and we stepped up our imports of crude oil from Russia, and America did not impose any sanctions by choice. That shows the kind of weight that India is accumulating on the international sphere. And that indeed is one of the signs of being a superpower. Because what are the signs of superpower? One most important sign is that you are able to do something you wish to do in the interest of your own country without being influenced by external factors. Nobody can coax you into doing something which you think is contrary to your national interest. And that exactly is what we are able to do now. The best performance that we could cite recently, while the situation was not best, but our response to it was very much commended, and that was the way we handled the pandemic crisis. This is a very painful experience that all of us have gone through, the whole world has gone through. But the way we could respond to this crisis situation, whether it is providing free ration to more than 80 crores households for a period of 2 years, 24 months, providing free ration to millions of population, to ensure that essential supplies are not disturbed, the supply chain is not disturbed, to produce vaccine within the limited time and be on time with the companies like Pfizer, the international stalwarts, that when their vaccine came out, our vaccine also was ready to come out. And then the vaccine diplomacy that was adopted by the government of India, where we find that without compromising the availability of vaccine to our own people, we could give vaccine to so many countries, and to many of them, we gave them free of charge. So much that we could do. What does it indicate? It surely is an indication that yes, India has arrived on the world map. Indian star has arisen on the world horizon. And therefore, as we celebrate the 75th anniversary of our independence, the message that the government and the Prime Minister is giving, as the message says here, यही समय है, सही समय है, भारत का अनमोल समय है. This is the time. Time to do what? Time for what? And that exactly is what we are going to discuss now. Time to do what? Has India time arrived? Time to bring about the change that we want India to be. And what change we want to bring about? As we said, that if India is the land of enormous opportunities, now is the time that we must take control in our hands and harness these opportunities for the benefit of our own people. Economic development is not about economies. Economic development is about people and their lives. We want to make a positive difference to the lives of the people. And it is not just small handful of population, it is entire population. So the change that we want to bring about, those of you who are familiar with the corporate culture, you know how change management is a difficult challenge. For change to be brought about, first of all, there has to be a very clear vision. Then that clear vision must become shared vision. This is possible if that vision is effectively communicated. And then you create the pathways to usher in the change that you want to be. And this exactly is what the role of the government is. So, applying that change management to the level of the economy, we want India to be a superpower. So the vision is very clear. Is this vision limited only to the government policy makers and the bureaucrats? No, you and I today share that vision. Because today, the vision is not spelled out merely in terms of Garibi Hatao. Now, if you have a program like Garibi Hatao, those of us who fortunately are not a kind of a member in that group, we feel that, oh, it has got nothing to do with us. While those who are in that group will feel that, okay, somebody is going to hut out that garibi for us, so we have to do nothing. That means people's participation remains totally absent. Today, the vision is so very clear. The dream is so very clear, and it is a shared vision. The vision is we, the people of India, we want India to be a certain size economy, and the timeline is given. So we want India to be a $5 trillion economy by 25-26. We, all of us collectively. So the vision is clear. It has become a shared vision. And we will see that the pathways are being laid out to achieve that vision. But as we say, has the time really come? Are we ready for the change? What was the position till yesterday? And what is the position now? Why yesterday was not the right time? And why today is the right time? So to give a perspective, and what Honorable Vice Chancellor said in the beginning, that he had twice the occasion to kind of remain either in US or in UK, but he chose not to do so and came back to India. Unfortunately, people like that were very few at that time. And we are so glad and happy that he is one of them and that we have an occasion to interact with him and to be led by him. But then why was it not happening? What was the position in the past? So today, to begin with, I thought I will give you a quick historical perspective that the 75 years that we are going to celebrate, Azadi ka Hirak Mahotsav or Amrit Mahotsav, the 75 years, what has been our experience and where we were and where we are today, and on the way, what has changed and what this change tells us for future. So we are going to have just a quick look at India's story. Initial part of that India story is actually on the basis of some interesting pictures from Bollywood cinema that we have been so fond of. So India's story starts way back in 1820. I have taken a span just in this particular slide from 1820 to about 2020. So about 200 long years, how our position has changed. At that time, China and India together contributed 50% of world GDP, and share of India was close to 20%. By 50s, the share declined considerably. The share became very, very small. And then from there again, it has started going up. So the entire transition is very interesting to follow. Quick some economic highlights that today, India is the 5th largest economy in the world. But in terms of our per capita income, we are 188. This is one contrast that India constantly poses, and it's a big challenge for us that we must handle this situation, that the economy of the size, which is about 5th largest economy, surpassing maybe a country's economy like British economy. We are on the 5th position, and still in terms of per capita income, we are so very low. We are way up in terms of our literacy, but mind you, it is purely literacy, not really the levels of higher education. So this is another challenge that we have to face. We have been successful in adding solid about 20-30 years to our billions of population. In 51, average life expectancy was merely 41. We were dying young. Today it is 69. This is as per 2011 census, because after that census has not happened. That means we definitely have added 4, 5, 6 years to it now. And our score on Human Development Index is 0.645. Now this slide briefly summarizes our achievements also, and at the same time the challenges also that we are facing. So how the situation started changing. This is for the people who do not really have economics background quickly. India very often is represented as a Indian economy as an elephant, while Chinese economy is a dragon, and India is a mixed economy. Mixed economy meaning public sector and private sector both have a strong active role to play in the economic affairs, in the economic matters. So we are a mixed economy. And our journey started in 1950 and 1960 onwards. So 50s, we started what was termed as planned economic development. Condition was this, that a completely non-remunerative agriculture, complete impoverishment of agricultural sector, leading to displacement of people from agriculture, and this agricultural poverty spilling over to urban areas, that people giving up their rural abode, giving up their non-remunerative land, coming up to urban areas, but completely unskilled, and therefore just kind of getting absorbed in the informal, low-paying sector. So poverty was spilling over. The rural poverty was spilling over in the urban areas, and the poverty story therefore continued. 60s was the first time when we had to make some major choice whether we focus more on man or more on machine. And that was the time of the third plan, where we decided to start focusing more on machines. So we chose the development model, which was led by core sector, emphasizing more on, let us say, steel and cement and fertilizers and railways, that kind of a sector, and not so much on consumer goods, not even focusing so much on wage goods, that is agricultural production, so to say. So that was the choice that was made in 60s as the result of kind of neglecting the wage goods supply, food grain supply, kind of giving secondary importance to the role of the needs of common man, so to say, in the hope that once we build our infrastructure, we will be able to take further strides. Unfortunately, it did not result as per expectation, and therefore everywhere there were scarcities, there were short supplies, and as the result of which government's response was increasingly participate through regulation, strong regimentation, strong regulation. For everything you needed permits, for everything you needed licenses. At that time, it was said that during the period 1970 to 1980, to start any economic activity, you required close to 100 different licenses and permits. And it would take not less than 2 years to procure those licenses and permits. So you can imagine how slow the economy was moving, as the result of which the scarcities, the short supplies continued everywhere. And that resulted into a kind of a nexus between the bureaucrats, the government. Since there were so many restrictions, the black marketing, hoarding, corruption, all of it started. So in a way, it was seen as a policy failure, a policy of license, permit, regulation, LPR policy. And that was the background of 90s, when the major change started happening. As both the esteemed speakers before me, Dr. Pandit sir and Madam Dr. Anita Kanwar, both said that 90s have made a difference to India's position. What difference it made? The 90s ushered in the era of globalization. But I would like to make one point very clear here, just for us to understand the important role of policy makers. In 90s, we started on the path of globalization, but that was not by our choice. Why I'm emphasizing this is that, as I mentioned in the beginning, you need to have a clear vision as what you want your country to be, how you want to achieve that dream, what are the pathways you are going to lay out, the kind of statesmanship that is required. Unfortunately, that was missing. While globalization indeed was a successful initiative, it was not by our choice. It was not the policy choice voluntarily made. Due to the failure of earlier 3 decades of economic management, India had reached a stage where our foreign exchange reserves had become one of the lowest. Sound economics management tells us that for the country, the foreign exchange reserves it should hold should be sufficient to cover the imports of 6 months. Prudence is at least for 3 months. In 1990, India had foreign exchange reserve which would cover our import of only 15 days, 2 weeks. That low it had dipped. With the result, we couldn't import from anywhere. We were heavily dependent on imports of oil particularly, and our oil payments were overdue. In such a situation, usually many developing countries have experienced this. So in such a situation, certain world bodies, in this case, the task is given to IMF, International Monetary Fund. IMF gives a bailout program, and that bailout program is the program of globalization. So IMF, which lends for paying the trade bills, forced us that we will help you out. We will help you have the exchange that you need, foreign exchange that you need, provided you move away from licensing policy to liberalization, from permit dominant policy to privatization, and from extreme regulation to globalization. So a move from LPR to LPG, liberalization, privatization, and globalization, which is what 1991 July globalization is about. So the 90s globalization started like this. It's good. Sometimes we feel that the crisis actually clear your path, clear your vision. And that exactly what happened. The foreign exchange crisis, India was on the kind of verge of being bankrupt. So that crisis, in a way, was a blessing in disguise, because as a response to that crisis, maybe out of compulsion, we started opening up our economy. And from then, the positive story started. Many of us are actually unaware of this particular background, because fortunately, all of you are kind of, post-90 born people. So you have relatively been experiencing era of abundance, the era of kind of, comfortable living conditions. But that was not the case all along. It is only after 90s that we see rapidly growing middle class, because with globalization, many multinationals started coming into the country. People's jobs opportunities increased, salaries increased. Now, to match the salaries of the private sector, from 95 onwards, government also has been on regular basis upgrading salaries of government employees. You all must have heard about 4th pay commission, 5th, 6th, and now 7th pay commission. They are appearing at regular intervals. So overall, the salaries were increasing. That resulted into the growth of middle class. The demonstration effect, thanks to increasing income and the media growth, so we became aware of the lifestyle somewhere else, and also the rising diaspora. Diaspora is kind of your own people who have gone and settled abroad. But as Pandit Sir said, is somewhere in the mind of your mind, your heart has one corner which is kept for your village. That means there is a strong desire in your mind to remain connected with the homeland. And that is a very strong economic opportunity for the people who are back home. Today, India has a diaspora of 32 million people. That means 32 million diasporic Indians are living abroad. They all are our marketplaces. They all are our markets. They are the people who are likely to demand the products that we are sending from India. And therefore, and they are also the source of investment for us. So diaspora, a strong diaspora, all of it has started become operative after 1990s. This is actually the American dream that some of the people have rejected. But this actually is a pull and push for many of our young minds. The lifestyles of these developed countries started attracting people, and as the young people, and as the result of which we find that the brain drain intensified. Actually, there was initial wealth drain during the time of British rule over India. Then we find another brain drain around 70s, and now the third brain drain around 90s, with migration rising rapidly. But India was getting ready here to take the whole world head on. And that actually brought out many changes which we are experiencing now. So after 90s, next about 10 to 15 years, were the years where we were rebuilding, where a middle class was emerging, new lifestyles we were getting acquainted with. But now was the time to have a second major policy change. Unfortunately, it did not happen. This period, the period of, let us say, around 2000, first decade of the current millennium, you can say, was the period identified as policy paralysis. There was no clear policy direction as what exactly we want to do next. We have come this far. From here, where do we go? There was no clear vision, there was no sharing of the vision, and therefore there was a policy paralysis. Fortunately, it was for a very, very short period of time, it was short-lived, and then came the game changers. This is what we are familiar with currently. The millennial generation, most of you belong to, actually are the part of this particular period. So the game changers came with around 2015 onwards. The major policy thrust, which was like the shot in the arm, I have listed them here because, as I said in the beginning, that development is not only about economies. It is not only about your rising total national income, that you are a fifth largest economy. Whether people have any stake in it, whether common man is benefiting out of it. If common man has no stake in it, that kind of a development is likely to get aborted. That kind of a development cannot become sustainable. So the focus had to change to common man. We have been talking about inclusive growth and things like that, but that talk was not really matched by the policy support and policy implementation. That started happening after 2015. And these are some of the game-changing policies. Jan Dhan Yojana, which gave a kind of a financial inclusion, where we find that people even below poverty line or living on the poverty line would have access to banking institutions or banking sector. They can open account in the bank. Now, this has a far-reaching impact. See, today we talk about the success of the direct transfer of benefit. For example, the gas subsidies, cooking gas subsidy is directly transferred to the account of the beneficiary. That beneficiary is actually a person below poverty line. So in the past, he never had any account. So how will you directly give to the targeted beneficiary? So on the way, there would be a lot of slippages. And that slippages would be then kind of resulting into further corruption and things like that. To stop it, two things were needed. One, everybody should have an access to institutionalized financial system. Everybody should have an access to banking system. That was what Jan Dhan Yojana did. And of course, technology. We will come to technology little later. So Jan Dhan Yojana was one starting point. Aadhaar also helped because now everybody got a unique identification number. So lots of, imaginary host kind of personalities, Benami, as they are known as, just vanished. Benami farmers. I mean, the farmer doesn't exist. Just he is existing on the paper. The person doesn't exist. And all the benefits are transferred to that person, given to that person who is non-existential. So it is being accumulated or it is being kind of taken away by some other people, like usual lines of corruption and things like that. But now when you have your Aadhaar number and it is linked to your bank account, then in that case, the Benami transfers can be minimized. You must be hearing very often it is said that one of the earlier prime ministers, Rajiv Gandhi himself, had said, out of every 1 single rupee that government of India is spending for the poor, intended beneficiary receives only 10 paisa out of it. So where do 90 paisa used to go? They used to go proliferation on the way, but that came to be plugged with this unique identification number, your Aadhaar number linked to your bank account. But the starting point was get a bank account. So Jan Dhan Yojana, Aadhaar, Mudra loans, especially for the people who are kind of, from informal sector entrepreneurs. They could be traders, they could be small entrepreneurs. So Mudra loans was a big financial support given to the informal sector operators in the country. And Make in India, the much talked about policy that the government has been implementing. The importance, why I'm calling them game changers, is this, that not only government had a clear vision, government was working towards making that vision real, working towards it. Why I'm saying it, that was the time Make in India was announced around 2016. That was the time I was visiting some country abroad, and I was just watching one TV program on the local channel there, and to my surprise, that program was showcasing India's strength in terms of that time it was the program on biotechnology. So India's strength in the biotechnology sector. And I was so surprised. I said, it is the government's program, Government of India's program, Make in India. Under that, government had identified 25 sectors where India has certain strength or is likely to build some strong competencies. But government was kind of, propagating it to foreigners in their country on their channels and so easily available and accessible. So the rationale of Make in India was come to India and produce in India. That would give kind of a boost to employment generation. That would give a chance for us to get the resources into use, and that will set the machinery rolling. But if others do not know what are your competencies, which are the sectors where government is offering you some additional benefits, how will they come and how will they know it? And therefore, government was kind of, backing up its policy measures by concrete actions. Another very interesting aspect of Make in India, why I find these programs are very important. See, all 25 sectors did not flourish. Government had identified 25 sectors under Make in India. All 25 sectors did not flourish, but they made one fundamental change to our mindset and to our concept of a business. The other day, I was listening to an interview by, interview was of Baba Kalyani. Some of you might have heard his name. Baba Kalyani is a very, very respected veteran entrepreneur from Maharashtra. He specializes in metallurgy industry. That is his core competency. So I was listening to his interview and he was narrating his experience that how way back in 2000, he was visiting some place in Sweden where he has his own factories forging, where he is making auto components to be supplied to Scandinavian countries. And Bharat Forge is one of the first Indian manufacturing multinationals having production setups in foreign countries. So he was visiting his setup in Sweden, and he happened to visit Bofors factory there. And when he visited Bofors factory and saw that ammunition and things like that, he was wondering, much of this ammunition is forging, and forging is our competency. Why can't we make it in India? The time period was 2000. Make in India was nowhere in picture. So he thought, okay, let me start doing something on his own. Of course, he acquired license, he acquired permissions, he acquired a prototype gun from some other supplier and invested his own money and started making some preliminary weaponry when India's private sector was actually not allowed to produce any weapons indigenously. We were only importing weaponry. We of course had a few public sector organizations, but hardly any production manufacturing was happening there. So most of our military supplies were imported and we were not producing in India. So under Make in India, when government identified defense as one of the sectors where private sector can come forward and start producing, there was such a huge hue and cry that how can we give the weaponry production to the private sector? Why? Because we were always doubtful. We were doubtful about our business people. We always doubted our kind of, integrity of a businessman, because our idea of businessman was crony capitalist who would kind of make money at any cost. But here, a first time, government, and I attended that particular meeting of our first most respected Raksha Mantri, late Sri Parrikar, where he was talking to the private sector representatives, and I was present there. So he was talking about how government wants private sector to come forward and start producing the military ammunition, weaponry, or whatever are the military requirements there in India. Now, such a great trust building initiative I felt it was. We would trust a foreigner like Bofors to supply us our guns, but we were doubtful whether our own business people would really be true to us and will supply the proper ammunition and things like that. And here you have your minister coming and telling you that, yes, we have trust in you, we have faith in you, you can do it. Look at the change. This change will take you a long way. You know that your government trusts you. You know that your people trust you. That will make you put up, additional effort and will really make you deliver what you are expected to deliver. And I think Make in India really made that mindset change. And therefore, I look at it as one of the most positive initiatives that the government of India has taken in the recent years. Startup India, a reference was already made to it. And this is another area where we find that a great initiative that will definitely take us a long way for becoming a economic power. Because startup is all about youth developing their entrepreneurial skills. We don't want our people only to be job seekers. We want them to be job creators, to be job givers. Now, Startup India essentially is a policy where the government does a lot of hand-holding. Of course, there are lacuna. No policy is perfect, but fortunately, we feel that the government is very much kind of sensitive to the sensors, pain sensors, like where there is pain, where there are lacuna, how they can be corrected. And as the result of which, there is a constant evolution that is happening. So under Startup India, DIPT, that is Department of Industrial Promotion for Internal Trade, the DIPT department of the government of India that comes under Ministry of Commerce. So that department actually does a lot of hand-holding for identifying startup. If you have a startup idea and if you think that idea is likely to work, then there are this DIPT can actually be a great handholder because that they have developed the startup hub, and that startup hub makes you avail lot of funding concessions, lot of tax concessions, a lot of government support. And that is how we find that the government is encouraging the youth to come forward and contribute their might in changing the Indian scenario. And of course, Digital India, the kind of technological revolution that we all are experiencing around. With this, what happened? That kind of a, self-sustaining propelling force got built up, resulting into rapid growth. So these are the 5 currents of activities that keep propelling and move in a circular fashion. Starting with initial rapid growth, partly as the result of government policy, partly as the result of change that we experience due to globalization and things like that. So this rapid growth resulted into a lot of advantages that India could enjoy. Our mainstay was our talent and capability. We keep hearing about India being the biggest source of very capable and yet affordable labor. So we have talent and we also have affordability. It is here that talent and capabilities need to be constantly rebuilt. You need to constantly keep on updating it. And it is here that our responsibility lies, that academia, the institutions, that we must provide kind of, constant upgradation of skills, the changing set of skills. There are a lot of studies available that what kind of skills will be required in next 10 years. Gone are the days when you can just get one degree and live your entire life on that degree. You just have to keep on upgrading and the skill sets keep changing. So the talent and capability advantage that we have, we need to keep on working on it. And there is a customer migration. Customer migration refers to not physical migration of people, but it refers to that spending capacity of the people. And as the result of this, we find that India, particularly Asia, India, China, and Southeast Asian countries have become a strong attraction as customer migration. And there is so much of relocation of industry happening. For example, when I was studying chemical industry, out of 10 major chemical industries in the world, in 1980, 7 were in Europe, 3 were in US. By 2015, only 3 remained in Europe, 3 continued to remain in US, 7 had changed and relocated themselves in Asia, because essentially the customer migration that they were experiencing. And that is true of many of other industries also. So these 5 propelling forces have resulted into the kind of prosperity that we are experiencing today. Then the focus on developing 100 smart cities and things like that, all of it actually created a kind of a environment full of energy, full of excitement, full of dynamism. But once again, as we were starting our journey, continuing ahead on these lines, came another shock. That was in the form of pandemic. And once again, Indian economy found itself in a very, very critical spot ever since 1991. That was one time when we experienced a major shock, and now was another time where actually the whole world was unaware as how the things are going to unfold. And countries like India, who were just starting their journey of prosperity, again kind of, felt whether it is going to result into the retreat of the economy. So we again were in a very, very tight spot after 1991. And as the things have unfolded, as we are seeing it, it looks like that we have to a great extent put that shock behind. The normalcy is getting restored. 2022 data on India's national income shows that pre-pandemic level already has been achieved, and world again is looking up to India as the fastest growing economy, which not only will successfully lift itself up, but will also help rest of the world to come out of this pandemic induced crisis, where the whole world is fearing whether they will get into recession. And therefore, the question is, can we make our elephant fly? Can India emerge as an economic superpower with all these changes, the dynamics that we have seen? Of course, no time and no period is really very peaceful and smooth period. Look at the previous century also. Previous century has seen 2 world wars. It has seen 1 Great Depression, and 1918, something similar to what we have experienced now, the corona virus and corona crisis was experienced their Spanish flu. So they had their Spanish flu, they had their 2 world wars, they have seen severe Great Depression of 1930s, and yet they survived. So no time is peaceful time. We cannot say that, oh, our time was turbulent, our time was very crisis time. The success lies in how you handle that crisis. And therefore, though it is true that we are in a very, very tight spot, can we really think of making our elephant fly? And how do we make it fly? Is what actually we are going to see. I just have 4 more slides to share. So if the organizers permit, I will continue. Otherwise, I think I will take up question answers. So do I show those slides?
Yes, ma'am. 5 minutes you can take.
I'll take 5 minutes. Okay. So all these big picture changes that we have seen, can we just heave a sigh of relief that hush, finally, the trigger point has arrived. Sahi time, yahi time, can we say? Is it sahi time, yahi time? How do we make sense out of it? For at our level, big picture is okay. At our level of operation, what kind of change we can see, can bring about? So what are the strengths? What are the features, parameters of this trigger point, the point of action? Has the time arrived for India to get into action? There are three parameters: adequate number of people first, and adequate purchasing power, because together they indicate your market size. See, India has always been a large overpopulated country. But in the past, for one thing, India was never mentioned on any of the world platforms. And if at all we were mentioned, we would always be mentioned as large, overpopulated, poor country. Today, we are overpopulated, all right. But nobody is kind of belittling us as being overpopulated. They are looking at us as emerging market. So this particular transition from being overpopulated to this status of emerging market is because of adequate purchasing power that we have been able to put in the hands of the billions of people on the way. So adequate number of people with adequate purchasing power. It is this which is responsible for that customer migration that I mentioned about. Now you may have income, you may have number, but do you have inclination to spend? And here we have another distinction. Who has maximum inclination to spend? Obviously the young, the youth. They have inclination to spend if they have money in hand. So today we find that distinction that India receives, that we are a young nation. Other countries are aging societies. For example, average age of American population is something like 43. Average age of Japanese population is 50 plus. Average age of China is 39. In India, it is 26. We are a young nation. Now, it has many implications. If you are a young nation, not only our average age is low, indicating a youthful population, if you look at our workforce, the average age of Indian workforce is 27, 28, while average age of American workforce is 50. Average age of Japanese workforce is 56. Therefore, very soon, they are going to find that, well, there are jobs, but there are no people to work for those jobs. But here in India, yes, we have people who are young, who are talented, who are capable, and as the result of which, now we find that we are in a very, very opportune time. But this historical time that we have, it is not going to be forever with us. We have a very strong window which is open to us. Historically, it is going to be here with us. The population dynamics say that India will continue to be a young nation till about 2050. After that, we also will become an aging society. So we have just about next 2 to 3 decades to work on this window and to bring about the transformation. And here again, I want to appreciate the vision that is shared with us. See, while we are celebrating the Azadi ka Amrit Mahotsav, we are being told to work towards what we will be when we will be 100 years old of celebrating 100th year, centenary year of our Azadi, 25 years now. That exactly is the time when our historical window will be getting closed. 2050. India becomes an aging nation. And that is the significance of the next 2 to 3 decades, the short time that we have on our hand. Very often, I think that when we read about the freedom struggle, we feel excited that, oh, that was the period most happening. And sometimes we feel that we wish we were present at that time. Fortunately for us, again, that period is given back to us. Now is the war not against political slavery. Now is the war against economic tyranny. Now is the war against slavery imposed by poverty. And this war is actually more difficult to win. But if we can win it, then we will forever emerge as victorious. It is therefore the make or break time right now. Therefore, Prime Minister is saying, yahi samay hai, sahi samay hai. If you miss this bus, you are going to miss your destination forever. It is make or break. It is do or die. And who are going to make it? It is you, the youth of India, who actually are the people who are going to carve the victory for India in the next 2 to 3 decades. Now, for that, our strength is one part is this. Like we have been saying, and I think that Dr. Pandit also made a reference to it, that prosperity in economic affluence is spreading. This is the report of World Economic Forum 2020. The report was published, and report says that how income distribution is changing. See, in 2005, that means 20 years after globalization and privatization started, we still had 69% of our people in the low income group. Obviously, they are not spenders. Therefore, that demand pull was not there. But by 2018, the number has come down significantly. And now there is a rise of a strong middle class, 33% in lower middle group, 21% in upper middle group. So together, they are more than 50%, the strongest, fastest growing middle class in India. They are the spenders. By 2030, their strength is going to increase further. And the people in the low income group is going to be merely 15%. So we find that there is definitely expanding market with a large number of people, see billions of people getting so much of purchasing power in their hand. And these people are not only urban centric, but they are spread across the country. I find this slide very, very important because what it says that where these spenders are located. The regions are metro, we are familiar with boom town, that means the next big cities, rest are urban, developed rural and rest of rural. This developed rural is a very, very interesting cohort, I felt. It is here that 20% of our population is going to get concentrated by 2030. Right now, there are 15%. What are these regions? So to say, they are rural regions, but the process of development has been initiated. I was reading one report from Tripura, and that report says that Tripura, Mizoram, Manipur are emerging as horticulture hub of India and are going to be the exporters of even fruits like kiwi to New Zealand. And they already are exporting a huge amount of pineapple to Middle East and things like that. So these regions are changing rapidly. The size of developed rural will be bigger than the size of metro cities. So spatial spread is going to be across the country. And that is very much interesting because that shows that our opportunities are going to be widely spread across the countries. They definitely are not going to be just urban centric or metro centric, but they definitely are going to be throughout the country. And with all these changes, the 2020 report says that we already have reduced the people below poverty line to 25%. Still, it's a very big number. 25% of our population is still kind of, living in poverty. But just 15 years back, it was 46%. And now it is just 25% in spite of all the turbulence that we have been experiencing. And here again, you will see that the concentration in just some region, while rest of the India is taking large strides. So how we can further accelerate this? We can accelerate it partly by government support and partly through our own participation. Here, I would just like to make one mention talking about restructuring of the economy. Government's Gati Shakti policy announced in the budget for the current year. Government has identified the connectivity lacuna as one of the major kind of, speed breakers. And therefore, the government is going full-fledged with developing connectivity of all types, road, rail, waterways, airways, and soft connectivity. And I was listening to our infrastructure and transportation minister yesterday itself, and he was saying that he is building highways and state highways in such a way that the time to travel, let us say from Nagpur to Amravati, which presently is 4 hours, will be just 1 hour 25 minutes, and he will complete that by end of 23 December. During COVID also, the average number of roads built per day, the kilometers, it was 20 8 kilometers of highways built per day during COVID. The target was 38, but because of COVID, maybe the target was not achieved. So yesterday, Minister was saying that now they want to build 50 kilometers per day of national highways. Same thing is seen about railways. The government is also providing the cold storage railways and basically connecting different regions of the. For example, one of the major policy thrust is about identifying district with product, one district, one product, ODOP. And government has for every state identified where their competency lies. Talking about Maharashtra, government has identified 38 districts with specific products that if they concentrate on production of those items, government is providing them support in terms of infrastructure, in terms of finance, in terms of marketing assistance. And most of these products are agro-based products. Now, to move these products to the final marketplace, government is providing good connectivity, cold storage vehicles and things like that. And that is the reason as why, again, we find that there is a lot of excitement that is happening around. Just one word now, last word about these unicorns and startups, because that is what the rest of the sessions today, we have our budding entrepreneurs who actually already are in that startup zone. So the unicorn policy announced, unicorn support policy announced in 2016, and by 2022 we have 100 unicorns. Now one unicorn is an enterprise with a valuation of $1 billion and above. So in about 5-6 years time, Indian youth could could come out with 100 unicorns and huge number of startups. And the startup hub, as I said, already is working, and that is giving rise to these unicorns, which actually is again a kind of a hope for us. And therefore, certainly India can become a economic superpower. Be at academic level, what we can do is briefly narrated here. We need to kind of break up the silos in which we are working. I was happy to hear Madhavi madam when she said that you already have 5 collaborative initiatives between ICT and Vivekanand College. So different academic institutions with their competencies must come together. The students must intermingle. You must develop the connectivity, the networking, and you, the academic bodies can kind of empower the student with deploying new technology. So as we said that our students, not only Mumbai based, but across the countries, technology can be a great equalizer. Technology data shows that internet users, rural and urban, are almost on par. So our geography need not trump down our demography. And our demography need not become our destiny. Our demography need to become the creator of our destiny. And that is possible if we are harnessing technology, because the manufacturers are not only looking at low-cost labor, they are also looking at other manufacturing facilitation. So technology, government support, capable young minds and skilled labor force, all of them are definitely going to make India an economic superpower, definitely by 2050. So when we celebrate the centenary year of India's independence, that independence would also be independence from poverty. Of course, there are certain challenges on the way, but I think those challenges I will take up as part of our question answers if there are questions. And this is what I thought I would share with you. So we seem to be at the end of the tunnel, and at the end of the tunnel, there is bright light indicating that definitely India is going to be a major economic superpower in the next 2 to 3 decades. Thank you so much for listening to me so carefully and so patiently. So thank you once again, and thank you organizers for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on this. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And due to paucity of time, we will take up the questions from the participants and send them to you. I take this opportunity to thank you once again for tracing the history of the development of India through all the 75 years, the roller coaster rides that we have in these 75 years, and reiterating the fact that the shared vision that we have today will definitely lead to the development, and the next 2 decades are the most important ones for us, and therefore the youth have tremendous opportunities that we have said as in our title. And madam, a special comment, the visuals in your presentation were extremely interesting, and I'm sure they have appealed to the participants also a lot. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Over to you, Madhvi, for the next session.
Yeah, our next speaker is Dr. Reshamwala, and he is going to give our participants an insight on the various funding opportunities that are available, be it for your higher studies, be it for your research, or even for your startups. So I'll just quickly introduce you all to our next speaker. Dr. Shamlan Reshamwala is an assistant professor at Institute of Chemical Technology, Mumbai since 2017. Prior to this, he worked as a research scientist in the same organization, which he joined in 2011. His research interests include overexpression and secretion of recombinant proteins, enzyme engineering for improved catalysis and robustness, utilization of abundant feedstocks for biosynthesis of fine and specialty chemicals, and bioprospecting to explore metabolic diversity in environmental niches. Apart from his research and teaching responsibilities, Dr. Reshamwala is interested in promoting innovation and entrepreneurship. He is a member of the Institute Innovation Council and has been part of the committees that drafted ICTs, that is Institute of Chemical Technologies, IPR and technology transfer, and innovation and startup policies. He is also a patent and trademark agent, and he has numerous publications and patents to his credits. So I welcome Dr. Shamlan Reshamwala, and over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I will share my screen now. Without further ado, okay. So good evening, everybody, and thanks a lot to BAM for inviting me to give a talk on this very auspicious occasion of the 75th anniversary of our independence. It's a pleasure to address participants in this very interesting session. And of course, like being the fourth speaker in this session is good for me, because the earlier speakers, including Dr. Nagpurkar as well as Professor Pandit and Principal Madam, they have already laid down the ground for what I'm going to speak today. Since we have largely an audience that is students, if I'm not wrong, I'll be focusing on higher education and entrepreneurship, not much on funding opportunities for research. But before we do that, as the earlier speaker, Dr. Suniti Madam, had mentioned very correctly, when we speak about growth, when we speak about economic growth, it's not only about GDP per capita, it's about people. And that is something of real interest. It's the people that make up a country, and it's the people who actually, when they progress, the country progresses. And I hope by the end of this brief session, I'll be able to convince you about the tremendous opportunities available in our country for those who wish to pursue higher education and want to become entrepreneurs in their own right. Before we start, I have a question. and which is this: how many Indians go abroad every year for higher education? This session that we are attending today is about brain retain. And to understand the reason why we are having such a session is to first need to know what are the statistics, what are we looking at, what is the problem, what is the problem that we are encountering, and then we'll be able to appreciate the opportunities that are available to stem this brain drain. So even Dr. Suniti Madam spoke about the brain drain. And before that, Professor Pandit mentioned how he had got an opportunity to stay back in the UK, but he decided to come back to India. Any idea how many Indians travel every year abroad for higher education? Anybody from the audience? You can maybe type it out in the chat box. Any clue? Well, so this is the number as on March 20. So as on March 20, approximately 1.5 lakh. Okay, Srinidhi. Okay, you are quite close to it. You have mentioned 2 lakhs. It's actually it's approximately 1.5 lakhs as on March. Maybe by the end of this year, it's going to be much more. But yeah, you are somewhere in the correct sort of ballpark. These many students go abroad for higher studies have gone till March. And in the preceding years, so for example, in 2021, last year, approximately 2.5 lakh students left from India for higher education abroad. And the number before that was 2.6 lakhs. And obviously, no prizes for guessing. The preferred destination were, of course, the US, followed by Canada, followed by the UK. So this is where students are going. But these numbers actually are not real numbers, simply because these were the years where the pandemic has been like afflicting the whole globe. So the numbers before the pandemic were larger than this. So for example, in 2019, 7.7 lakh Indian students went for higher education abroad. And it has been predicted that this number is going to increase to 18 lakh per annum by 2024. This is very interesting. So 18 lakh students going every year to study abroad for higher education is something that's a huge number. And the question that we need to ask ourselves is, what is the reason behind such a large number of Indian students seeking degrees from foreign universities? We have many universities in our country, many good universities in our country, many good research institutions in our country. Yet we see that there is a large number that travels abroad every year to get degrees from foreign universities. Any idea? I'm going to open this to the audience. Any idea why would students want to go abroad to get degrees from foreign universities? We can all have different reasons, but would anybody want to share maybe on chat if possible? I guess we'll have a more interactive session if we do that. What do you think? What is the driver here? What drives students? So we know students and all of us have had classmates when we were studying, like after graduation, some students went off for their PG. Okay. Oh, hello Shubhajit. Better quality of life. Okay. Well, maybe, yes. Anybody else has any other opinion? What is this? Why does the West specifically? We saw that Indian students are going to the US, to the UK, and to Canada. So it's the West. Why is the West such a magnet for Indian students. And remember, and this is going to be, of surprise to some of you guys at least. Okay, Bharat Singh, as for my perspective, while during recruitment in some institutes, foreign degrees are preferred. Okay, that may be true, even though, officially that may not be the case, but unofficially, maybe yes, because then maybe perhaps recruiters feel that those with foreign universities are better trained. Maybe that's what you mean, Bharat. Spera, a wide variety of subjects are available. Okay, as we can see, different members of the audience have different opinions about why we are seeing this large number of students seeking degrees abroad. And as I was telling you, for example, if you want to go to do your master's degree, for example, to the US, any idea what you would spend over a couple of years? Any idea approximately? What is the approximate expenditure on a master's degree? Anybody has any clue? Absolutely. Hey, hold on. Not 10, not 10, 20, not 30, not 40. No. I was surprised when I first came to know this figure. Over the course of 2 years, you spend anywhere up to 70 to 80 lakh rupees. And I was surprised. Medical field, I'm speaking about, my own field, your field, Shubhaji. People who go off to do a master's in, let's say, in biotechnology from some of the better places in the US, where they are not funded, where they have to pay their own fees. Now imagine that. So people are willing to spend that sort of money to go abroad and do their degrees there. Why is this happening? And we have seen many people say a lot of things, but I would want to point out something which is actually something that we need to keep in mind. That there is a larger social context for this scenario that we see in the higher education sector. And that is going to be clear when we look at Anthem. All fees, accommodation, etc. comes to 1 crore rupees. I'm not very sure, but this is on the higher side. But maybe yes, 80 lakhs say 1 crore बहुत दूर नहीं है उस तरह आप सोचे तो. Yes, perhaps. So what we see in the higher education sector actually is a microcosm of what actually is happening in, if you look at the broader picture. And this will be clear when we look at these numbers. How many Indians emigrate every year? Now, I won't ask members of the audience to guess this, because we'll all have wild guesses. I'll show you official figures. So in the year 17, and this was the number that the latest number that I got, 26 lakhs Indians went abroad in 17. And mind you, these are not tourists. These are people who are going abroad to work. Okay. And as of 2020, we have a diaspora of 1.8 crore Indians living abroad. So Dr. Smriti Madam also mentioned this. So, is this something that we need to be happy about? Both yes and no. Both yes and no. And for a reason. Because many of these Indians are actually NRIs, which means that they do live abroad, but they send remittances back to India, which is a good thing, because that leads to us getting a lot of foreign exchange. And many of these Indians also send money back to their homes, which means there's a lot of spending power available within the country. So in that sense, that's good. But there's another side to this. When you look at this picture, over the past 3 years, approximately 4 lakh Indians have renounced their citizenship. Now, when I first read this, when I was researching on this topic for this talk, I told myself that Are we really bothered about them? We have a population of 130 crore plus, of which if 4 lakh people decide to go and leave India forever, that's something that we need not be bothered about. That shouldn't bother us. But this is a bother for a reason. And the reason is there on the screen. I'm going to allow you guys to read this and give you some time so that this sinks in. 2/3 of those migrating out of the country are highly educated. And this is exactly the theme of today's session. How do we do brain retain and how do we prevent brain drain? That's the point. And I think if we are able to some extent at least, able to appreciate that this brain drain is actually something that we can do without. Because these people who are migrating out of the country are people who are highly educated, who are highly skilled, who, if they choose to stay back in our country, who can make a big impact. We heard Professor Pandit say this. Those who decide to stay back will be able to make a large impact because they are going to be a few in many. And these people who do decide to go away are actually leaving the country poorer in that respect. So what are we supposed to do about this? Well, here it's going to be my endeavor to tell you that there are opportunities in our country, that for those who wish to stay back, for those who wish to do something for the country, in the country, there are ample opportunities. There are ample opportunities available for those who wish to contribute to our country's progress. So for those who, for example, students who wish to pursue higher education, a number of scholarships are provided by the government, as well as private players. And these are scholarships that will see you through your master's as well as your doctorate degree. The research grants are available to researchers in diverse fields. They are cutting edge research. You have many funding agencies that will give you as much money as you asked for to do research that is cutting edge. And for those who want to become entrepreneurs, the sky is literally the limit, because we have funds that are available for people who want to start their own businesses, their own startups. And these funds many a times, and I will maybe qualify this later, many of the times, this money comes with no strings attached. It's free money. So you take this money, of course, because it is a competitive process where you need to compete with others who are smarter than you, and you need to make your case, but then you do have a lot of funds available to turn your dreams into reality. And that is exactly what I'm going to tell you now in the next maybe few minutes. So for education, and as I have already indicated to you guys, since most of the members of the audience are students, this is going to be of interest to you guys. A number of scholarships are offered by both the central and state governments to deserving students so that they can study right up to the doctorate degree. And this is a one-stop shop. You can visit this website, scholarships.gov.in, and this will give you a very comprehensive list of government scholarships, both central and state. And I strongly recommend that students can take a look at this and share this link with others too. To just give you a feel for what ministries are offering educational scholarships. So you have the Ministry of Education, of course, that's what they're supposed to do. Then you also have the Department of for Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities, so people who are differentially abled, they too can tap into a lot of scholarships. The Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, so people from the weaker sections of society, they can avail of many students from these sections can avail of many scholarships being offered by this ministry. Then you have the Ministry of Labor and Employment. So people with with traditional skills, for example. So they can also avail of many scholarships. And you'll be surprised when you do visit the site, you'll be surprised. There are so many different scholarships available for students who want to study from different backgrounds, from different regions of the country, from different skill sets. Like I told you, people with traditional skills, if they want to upgrade their skills, scholarships are available for those too. The Ministry of Minority Affairs, the Ministry of Tribal Affairs, the Ministry of Home Affairs, and many more. So strong recommendation for those who are interested in availing of some of these scholarship opportunities. Do visit this website. It's going to give you a lot of information in one place. And then, since we are speaking about higher education, a lot of fellowships are also available for doing your doctorate degree. For those in the sciences, the CSR, UGC, JRF is very well known. So is the DBT Junior Research Fellowship. For the social sciences too, we have a lot of scholarships being offered by different government agencies. For example, you have the Swami Vivekanand Single Child Scholarship for research in the social sciences. And of course, you have also then the Indian Council for Historical Research, the Council for Social Sciences, and then you have the Azadi National Fellowship for those from the minorities. And I would like to point out one specific fellowship, which is listed here in blue, which is the Prime Minister's Research Fellowship. This fellowship, okay, hold on. Let me ask you guys, do you know about this fellowship? You can say a yes or no in the chat. Are you aware of this very interesting fellowship? So those who are listening can maybe, yes, okay, Bharat, okay. No, you are not aware. Okay, Sohail. Very quickly, what about the others? Smera, okay, you don't know. Hey, so a lot of people don't know this. The Prime Minister's Research Fellowship is a fellowship that is awarded to do your PhD, and the stipend that is given is something that is phenomenal. 70,000 rupees per month is the stipend available, is the fellowship available for those who qualify this. Yeah, absolutely, Bharat. It's the most highly paid one. It's highly competitive too. But yes, this opportunity exists. And for those of you who may not be aware, 70,000 rupees per month is actually that is equivalent to an assistant professor's salary. And that too tax-free. Okay, so the point is that there are, for higher education, you have many fellowships available. What I have listed here are just a few. There are many more. And what I have highlighted here is, of course, the most highly paid one, as Bharat says. Yeah, it's very competitive. And I'm happy to say that there are quite a few students in ICT who have actually received this, this very coveted research fellowship. And of course, you have also many private foundations that provide fellowships. It's not only the government. There are many private foundations too. For example, the Google PhD Fellowship India program. It's an interesting program. It's funded by, of course, Google, which all of us know. And it's meant for students who want to pursue a PhD in AI and those fields. And you have the Jawaharlal Nehru Memorial Fund and others. The Narottam Sekhsaria Foundation PG Scholarship Program is something that you should look at. And for those who may or may not know, this gentleman, Narottam Sekhsaria, is actually an alumnus of ICT. So this foundation also has a scholarship to do a lot of different degrees. They are available. You can also look at their website. And there are many, many more. So that was about higher education. I told you right at the beginning that I won't speak much about research opportunities because I believe most of the audience is are students. And for those who want to become entrepreneurs, want to start their own business, want to become wealth creators, there are many, many opportunities available. In fact, entrepreneurship is now increasingly become a career option for many young Indians. So now, you know, when we speak to students, a lot of students tell us that kya karna hai to khud ka kuch karna hai. It's become quite a buzzword now. And fortunately, we have a lot of funding, both government and private, available for those who wish to become wealth creators, wealth generators. Especially if you into the deep tech space, where you have startups in the deep tech space, a variety of funding options are available. Dr. Suniti ma'am spoke about Startup India. So I would strongly recommend that those who wish to look at different resources, funding opportunities, other information related to startups, please visit this very, very comprehensive website, startupindia.gov.in. And this can be an excellent starting point for those who want to pursue or at least look at very carefully entrepreneurship as a career. In fact, you know, I'm very happy to share this with you. I'm very happy to share this with you that there was a student in ICT who right in his second year, who started his own company in ICT. So we had a student, some of you guys, some of you may know him, Saad Jamal, who in his second year, right after she finished his second year, he started his own company. And of course, the institute supported him. And he also raised a lot of venture capital. And now I met him yesterday. We had the convocation yesterday. And he was telling me that he is still working on that company. So he didn't take up any campus placements. He's not going for higher education. That's what he wants to do. And he's not from a big city like Delhi or Mumbai or maybe Calcutta or Bangalore. He's from a very, very small town in Uttarakhand, a town that I never heard about. The first time I heard about this town was when he told me that he's from Halwani. I never heard this, so there maybe some of you guys haven't heard it either. Halwani in Uttarakhand. Now we are seeing this, that students are keen to pursue entrepreneurship as a career option. And for that, a lot of funds are available. Some of the benefits that startups can look forward to are listed here. And these I have taken actually from the Startup India web portal. So a lot of, so we know this. To start a business, you require clearances, you require certifications regarding environment, regarding labor. So startups are allowed to self-certify with regard to a few environmental and labor laws. There's an income tax exemption for a period of 3 consecutive years for startups. And if you need to wind up your company for whatever reason, a startup is easier to wind up. And patent applications made by startups are fast-tracked, and you also have a heavy discount on filing fees. And we know this, that the government is a very big customer usually for a lot of businesses. So those startups who want to cater to government needs have to fulfill easier norms. That's what is meant by easier public procurement norms. And this is something that should perk your ears up. A total fund of 10,000 crore. Yes, that's correct. 10,000 crore has been earmarked by the government of India to accelerate growth of the Indian startup ecosystem. I'll end this session by coming back to the theme of our session, which is brain retain. We heard the earlier speaker speak about this. India is the land of ample opportunities. India is the land of enormous opportunities. And these opportunities are there for us to have. We are our country's most precious resource, as has been pointed out earlier too by many speakers. We, as in the people of our country, we are our country's most precious resource. And for India to reap its demographic dividend, that was actually what was being talked about by the earlier speaker when she spoke about India being a young country. And that's our demographic dividend. For India to actually reap its demographic dividend, all of us will have to make a conscious effort to contribute to the well-being of our less fortunate fellow citizens. Remember this, people like us who are attending today's session, we are the better off citizens of our country. And that's why we have this luxury of, and I use this word very carefully, luxury of attending an online program and spending time to enrich ourselves, by listening to different speakers. While a lot of our countrymen are actually not as fortunate as we are. And it's our responsibility, people who are already educated, who are pursuing higher education, to not allow ourselves to be lured, let's say, by what the West has to offer us. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go and study abroad. I'm not saying that. That's fine. You should go and you can go. That's okay. But always keep this in mind, that it's we who can make a difference to our own country. And that can happen when we have brain retain and no longer brain drain. Thank you very much. Madhavi ma'am, do we have time for questions? I don't think so. But there is a question that somebody has typed in here, saying that it is lovely that you are enlisting and making all students aware of these fellowships. But I'm curious to know that what are the total number of such scholarships available in the country, considering our student pool? That's a valid question. That's a very valid question. And to actually understand that, we need to step back. The gross enrollment ratio in higher education in our country, according to the latest figures, I believe the latest figures are for 2020, if I'm not wrong, is 27.1%. 27.1%, which means, so in fact, when I first read this, I did a small calculation. So, which means that approximately 4 crore students are enrolling for higher education in our country. And when I say higher education, it's across the board, as in all disciplines. Whether the scholarships available will be enough to cater to this huge number, I doubt that. I don't think that like 4 crore scholarships can be made available every year. I seriously doubt that. But yet, I would say that many of these scholarships are quite competitive, which means that if you are good, you will land something nice for yourself. So you can't expect, as in me, whoever, all of us, we can't expect to be spoon-fed. That's out of the question. We need to make our own efforts. And don't forget this, these scholarships are given by the government. Is it not our individual responsibilities to somehow support others? Why should we always be looking at the government to hand out something to us? That is something also that we need to sort of change. Look at many Western universities. Look at the endowments available to them. It's huge. So many chair professorships, so many people give endowments to support different students. I think that's the time has now come for us to emulate something that's good. So I'm sure I didn't answer your question, but maybe that's my response. Ma'am, I think we are running short of time, so maybe we can stop this.
Yeah, if there are any questions, Dr. Reshamwala, then probably we'll post it to you on your email.
Absolutely,
If there
surely.
are few more
Thank
questions.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
So thank you very much for an extremely interactive session. And thank you for giving our participants an insight on the most important and crucial topic of funding. Most of the time, I think students lose on the opportunities because of their unawareness or maybe ignorance about the funding opportunities, and only look at the West for such kind of prospects or opportunities. So I'm sure this session has given them an awareness of the various prospects that they can explore and avail these opportunities staying in their own country with their family. It was indeed quite motivational session too. Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so now we move on to our last part of our session, last session, I would say, last part of our program, which is again going to be an interactive session with, we have 5 panelists, and we would kind of put them some questions, and it would be more interactive and kind of an interviewing the panelists and what are their opinions or views on a particular topic. That is how we are going to do this last part. So I would now request my co-coordinator, Dr. Meghna Sanjeeva, to briefly introduce our panelists and begin with our panel discussion. Over to you, Meghna.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome all the panelists. I would briefly introduce all of them. Our first panelist is Sudha Shankar Narayanan, and she's a food technologist from SNDT Mumbai and has 26 years of experience in the food industry. She's a subject matter expert in food processing and nutrition across various industries like bakery, dairy, produce, liquid products, and poultry. She's a certified sensory and flavor expert. She started her career with Domino's in India in the year 1996 and then led the brand through initial years with strong menu and supplier development. She then worked with McDonald's for 15 years, managing various portfolios, and has many winning products and business concepts to her credit. She is currently working with Papa John's International for the last 10 years, supporting Middle East, Africa, and Asia markets. Sudha is based in Mumbai, however, travels extensively to support all her international markets. She is also involved in various social activities through the Rotary Club. Our next panelist, Mr. Srinidhi, is the Vice President of Intermarket India. He has 29 years of work experience in the textile industry with core competencies in customer relationship management, digital marketing, operations and supply chain, brand building, and is providing marketing solutions. He holds a BTech degree from VJTI and has done his marketing management from the Jamnalal Bajaj Institute of Management. Previously, he has worked with Voltas and Swiss multinational Reiter AG and was based out of Switzerland for almost a year. Later, he switched to international marketing and joined Wellspun Limited. He has headed exports marketing for the Europe and UK and was a part of the team involved in the acquisition of UK brand Christie. Currently, he is working as the head of sales and marketing operations at the Intermarket India Private Limited, an associate company of the Venus Group USA. Our next panelist is Mr. Rupesh Kinikar. He is the Vice President and co-founder of Anthem Biosciences. Mr. Rupesh has an experience of more than 25 years. He graduated in chemical technology from the former UDCT, now known as ICT. And after the short stint at Cadbury's India, he moved to Biocon Limited in 1996. with a role that was focused on techno-commercial marketing of food ingredients. In his decade-long stint at Biocon, he was instrumental in sourcing marketing of enzymes for food, nutraceutical, and pharmaceutical vertical. In 2007, he founded Anthem Solutions, which later got merged with Anthem Biosciences and has been the key driver of its rapid growth in the space of nutrition and API industry, advancing in specialized peptide and biological development. Mr. Rupesh is the entrepreneur in our panel. Dr. Subhajit Sen is a Ramlingam Swamy Fellow and faculty at the University of Mumbai DAE Consortium CEBS. He holds a PhD degree in molecular biology and an MSc in microbiology. He was a research fellow of tumor biology at the St. Stephens at St. John Hopkins Medical Institute. He was a visiting fellow laboratory of cell and molecular biology at the National Cancer Institute, USA, a research scholar and a postdoctoral fellow of Tata Institute of Fundamental Research. He has published several papers in leading journals with high impact factor, and Dr. Subhajit will represent the academia and talk about the opportunities in this sector. I am very proud to say that he has been the alumnus of our college, VS College of Arts, Science and Commerce. Mr. Rohit Gupte, Senior Director, AP Moeller Maersk. Mr. Rohit Gupte holds a bachelor degree in commerce and a postgraduate degree in management from the University of Mumbai. He has more than 2 decades of experience in the shipping industry and customer service. He has resided in Denmark and China for a couple of years and now is in India. He has worked across various countries and is handling a global team here in Mumbai. Our next panelist is Nilesh Boite. Though he is not virtually present here today, he has sent a short video. Mr. Nilesh Boite is the General Manager, HR Consumer Products Division, L'Oreal. And before working in L'Oreal, he was working with Godrej Consumer Products and has experience of 2 pharma companies, Ranbaxy and USV. Again, proud to say that Nilesh is our alumni from our computer science department and is now taken up HR and management. He's worked in Paris for a decade and now is in India. So over to you, Madhvi, for taking up the questions for the panelists.
Thank you, Meghna. So we would have kind of 4 rounds for our panelists, 4 questions. So we start with our first round, and where the first question that I would like to put up is, what do you think about the opportunities, either in your field or overall in your sector or overall in India, you see today for the youth in India? And I think we will start with the ladies first. So we'll start with Sudha ma'am first.
Thank you, Swati. First of all, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come and talk to youngsters. And as everybody was being introduced, I was just feeling that, probably not as highly educated as the other panelists, but life and world has been very kind to me. And I can very proudly say that today's young generation is probably at the best period, in terms of the opportunities in India. Food and, I belong to the food industry, and food and drink remains one of the biggest manufacturing sector in India, as most of us know. And so the industry has a lot of opportunities, a lot of career opportunities, and there'll be a constantly steady intake of employees so that we can have the best brands in the country. I'm sure all the children here today love the various brands that are coming into the country. So India holds, I'm not sure if you all are aware, but we are the 6th largest food and grocery market in the world, which takes care of 70% of retail sales. We are also the largest, globally largest producers of many raw materials. And it's all because of the great climate and the soil that India has, right from fruits to vegetables to seafood and meats. India is one of the biggest producers. Unfortunately, only 1% of this is used. The rest goes, the rest of the produce is wasted. Now, what that actually means that it's a great opportunity for food industry. And Indian government has seen that, and which is why there are plenty of opportunities to start up a new industry, factories, and government is supporting, opened up many new schemes that we've already heard from the previous speakers today. Talent again in India is remarkable. So a lot of industries are coming into India to set up their centers, research centers in India, because globally brands feel that Indians are much more brighter and brilliant and the labor is cheaper. So all in all, I would say it's a great time for India with a great government to support us. And I definitely feel that food industry is here and we must all be a part of it to be a part of this tide. You're on mute, Ma. We can't hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sudha. I would like to pose the same question to Mr. Srinidhi Naragowda, his experience on the opportunities that are available today for the youth in India.
Thank you, Madhuri.
Maybe he can speak about.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
Thank you, Madhuri. Roti, kapda, and makan. I mean, these are the basic needs of a human being. So the speaker already has spoken about the roti. That's the food industry. So I'm talking about the textile industry now, which is also a very basic need of a human being for last so many years since the human being evolved. But if you look at the textile industry, if you ask many of the participants or the parents of the students, they will always say it's a sunset industry. So many of them will not be ready to join this textile industry. But I tell you, this industry has immense potential, immense opportunities for the students or for an entrepreneur. Even if you have not done anything in textiles, still you have a lot of opportunities. The investments required to get into textile is on a lower side. You don't have to invest much of money in doing any textile product. Of course, I mean, if you get into the technological products, the investments are high. But for an entrepreneur, he can very well get into this field. And if you look at the export potential, what India has, India is doing almost $40 billion of export as of now. And we are third. Probably Bangladesh is now second. And China is still the number one. And China is doing almost $250 billion of exports across globe. So see the gap. Probably we are at 40 billion. Bangladesh may be about 40 to 43 billion, and China is at 250 billion. So we can always fill this gap, and I'm sure our country will do exceedingly well in filling this gap over the period of time. So there is an immense potential for people to grow into textiles. The best example is during the pandemic. When the pandemic broke somewhere in mid of March, we hardly knew anything about the PPE kit. We never used PPE kit in our life. We never produced a PPE kit. We had never seen what a PPE kit is. So within 2 weeks' time, the textile ministry literally got a couple of PPE kits from China. They distributed those PPE kits to manufacturers like us. They said, can you do this? And in fact, all of us, we said, yes, we can do it. We were not knowing how to do it. Like there was a blue color tape, which needs to be fixed on the PPE kit so that no virus or no bacteria can pass through. We were not knowing how it is to be done because in China, they were using a machine to seal the tape. But Indians, as we know, we all are Jugadu. So Indians developed their indigenous ways of fixing this blue color tape on the PPE kit. And that's how by end of April, we were self-sufficient in distributing the PPE kits all across India to the doctors and caregivers. So this is one example. The second example is about the Har Ghar Tiranga. Now, just imagine the kind of tricolor we would need if we have to distribute to every household. And this idea just came up in month of July. Now, what textile ministry will do? From where are they going to source this Tiranga? Because Indian government had never allowed anyone to produce Tiranga except for the Khadi department. Khadi is what? Where you do a hand-woven flag. And it was a restricted production. So within a 1 month's time, textile ministry approached the textile industry And the textile industry also supported the ministry. So now you look at Surat, you look at Bhiwandi, everywhere, most of the factories are printing Tiranga all across and distributing all across the country. That's within a 1 month's time. So you see the kind of opportunities. It's only you should be able to grab the opportunities that is coming your way. So in my view, whatever you do, I mean, whichever field you are, if you are in India, you have plenty of opportunities. Just believe in yourself and believe in your own country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Srinidhi. And I would now pose the same question to Mr. Rohit Gupte, and will want to hear his views on this.
Great. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, you can.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
We spoke about food. We spoke about textile. We spoke about exports. I work in a company that makes goods move from one country to the other. So let's talk a little bit about logistics. We are a Fortune 500 company. I work for a company called AP Moller Maersk. We are around 206th in the latest rank of Fortune 500 companies. And I will talk about some statistics from my company to answer the question. India, the exports from India are good, but when we talk about our share of exports, it's around 2-3% of the global export share. So the potential is immense. When we talk about trade, we talk about China being much bigger in size. You look at textile as an example, but there are so many other industries where exports of goods is coming from China, even to countries like India. Now, although India has a very small share of market, and for a company like ours, we only move 2% of our goods in and out of India, we actually, strangely enough, employ a lot of people from India. So just to give you statistics, we employ more than 85,000 people in the world. And out of 85,000 people, more than 10,000 people are actually Indians. So the biggest nationality that we employ are Indians. I want to elaborate this a little more because the kind of jobs we generate and the kind of talent we get in India is immense. So what do? We sail ships from place to place. We employ seafarers. We have a captive center. We employ thousands of people in our captive center that work 24/7 to serve the globe. We have an IT center. We employ people in our IT center. We have a lot of leadership talent that actually doesn't just work in India, but works across the globe. So nearly 8% of our global talent pool is actually Indians in leadership roles. We have our CIO, who's in top 6, who's an Indian. So when I talk about this, I'm just telling you how much India has already influenced. And the reason for such influence is the kind of education backbone that we have established as a country. So I'm very, very proud to say that we actually go and make a mark on our merit as Indians. And I think the opportunities are immense. I can tell you in many places, even today, we actually struggle to get good talent. It's not about jobs. It's not about opportunities. It's actually about, do you have the right talent? Do you have the right skill set? Are you willing to put your 100% out there? Are you willing to go all out? So I would say opportunities are immense. We talk about economy size. We talk about us being close to a $3 trillion economy, going towards 5, possibly even more. Just to put it in context, China, similar population size, is 5 times of us. And it was not very far back that they were the same size as us. So imagine the opportunity that we as a country have to grow. And it's in every sector. It's not just in one or the other sector. It's in every sector. You see some sectors booming much more, like IT. But let me also tell you guys that the world has become so virtual that people actually hunt for talent at the right place. They don't really care which location you work out of. COVID was just the beginning, but I can tell you today, we are hiring hundreds of people irrespective of geographical boundaries. The only consideration we typically have is, do we get the right talent for the right job? And then the geography is just a consequence of where you are able to get talent easily. So I would say the world is yours as long as you want to capture it.
Thank you, Mr. Rohit. So what we can see from our three speakers who are already into a multinational company, has been, I mean, there are tremendous opportunities is that where Sudha madam has mentioned that we have the right climate, we have the right soil to, to be the largest producers. We have everything naturally available to us. As Mr. Srinidhi had also pointed out that there is tremendous opportunity because sometime back we were the largest, I think, exporters of textile, and China has somehow surplused us to a large extent. And so there are, but still there are a lot of opportunities through which we also can, the gap between China and India in exports of textiles is so huge that there is a lot of opportunities still for us to bag on it. And as Mr. Rohit has rightly, I mean, being into exports, he has said that there is so much of, because as he had mentioned, that only 2 or 3% of Indian goods that are exported through his company. So there is a very high potential. Plus there is a lot of talent also, according to him, that so many of Indians are already recruited in his company across the globe. So there is talent available. There are enormous possible opportunities that are available. The only thing that you have to think of the right skills that should be developed, the right opportunities to bag on, do your study well, that where the opportunities lies, and accordingly you can move ahead and bag those opportunities, and need not always think of the moving to the West or looking at the West for the career prospects. And the same question actually we would like to ask Dr. Subhoji, that since academia and research have also opened up several opportunities for students. So what was actually your motivation, Dr. Subhojit, and also tell us about your experience abroad and now here in India, in choosing the academic.
Yeah, thanks for giving me this opportunity to participate in this discussion. Just to give a brief history, after finishing my PhD in India, I lived abroad for about close to 11 years in the US and then came back. But I mean, thinking back into my own perspectives, I mostly had a passion to come back. I always wanted to, just like earlier also, Dr. We heard that from several other speakers as well as from the Vice Chancellor that, we come back for a reason, that, we come back for a passion. We come back because we want to give back to India what we so fondly got from it in plenty, right? And so I think part of the reason to come back is that passion to come back to your own country, do it with your own people, be comfortable with the surroundings that you are in, the food that you eat, the roti kapda makan that you can get. So all of this adds on to the reasons for coming back. But as far as opportunity is concerned, that is where I think that opportunities, as the previous speaker was also speaking about the funds, that we have so many funds available, but of course the pool of researchers or the pool of students vying for these funds is going to be very huge. So not everybody is going to get a piece of the pie. There's no doubt about that. So yes, it is very competitive in India, and therefore a lot of people go abroad because, I mean, part of them go abroad because they may not get that piece of the pie which is available for some people, right? And so some of us go abroad with the idea of either having a better future or getting a higher education from scholarships that are available abroad. And having been abroad, I did notice that yes, Indian students are quite sought after. There's no doubt about that. But if you look at the whole of the South Asian diaspora, are quite hardworking lot. And in fact, it will be surprising to tell you that in the lab that I worked in, I would say that the American guy was the most hardworking of all. So it's a mixed bag every time. And so, but yes, in general, that Asians are really sought after. Be it Chinese, Japanese, Indonesian, Indian, Asians are really sought after. Because I think we have very good work ethics. We kind of tend to sometimes put work before our personal gains, and so therefore, we are profitable in a way, in a time contribution. We are profitable to the companies that we give our work to. So given all these constraints, I think yes, we are a great workforce, but my reasons for coming back to India was more personal than opportunity to begin with. But now that when I've come back, I realized that yes, when I came back, there were a lot of opportunities the government has brought into as schemes for researchers to come back, to reverse brain drain. And I think coming back is a great time right now, because the young generation is really, and particularly globalization and the connectivity that we have now is not like when I went there some 20 years ago. The connectivity was poor, you had to strive to get things. But now connectivity is so good that even communication across, as somebody else also rightly pointed out, that that location is no longer a constraint, right? People are connecting all over through different industries from the world over, and location has become almost irrelevant. So given that scenario, I think we are in the right place to, because as Dr. Nagpurkar also correctly pointed out, that we are a young population and we have that capacity to build forward and grow from there. I think the new education policy will be a game changer in that respect, that we'll be able to get more vocational training, because Indian training has been mostly a large, and this I think many panelists will agree, that Indian training has been largely rote, and therefore when we try to get into the industry, we are not ready for the industry yet. We are yet to become industry ready. So I think the NEP, the new education policy, which will hopefully be a game changer in this direction, that a lot of vocational training will become part of the educational system, will help us push forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Subhojit. So just to mention a few key points from your talk, that probably we have, as Indians, as you said, that we are the most sought after when it comes to research and academics. And that is because we have work ethics, and also the probably there is talent in India. There is a lot of talent. And probably you feel that in the academics, the NEP, the national education, the new education policy might turn out to be the game changer, and there would be a lot of opportunities that would be available. We just heard about the various funding options also from Dr. Reshamwala. So there is immense, opportunities that are available today in India for the youth, even if they choose academics and research as their career option. Yeah, thank you. Now I would move on to our next panelist, Mr. Rupesh Kinekar. And since he is the first generation entrepreneur, I would say, he is a co-founder of a company, and he is the recruitment giver, I would say, rather than seeking for recruitment. So my question to him is, what was the motivation or turning point in your life that made you think of a startup business and putting a job that gave you a monthly salary check, So what were the opportunities that drove you towards this starting up your own business? And what were the challenges and how did you overcome those?
Good evening, all. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Well, it was like in 2006, I was working in Biocon those days. And at point of time, Biocon decided to sell off its enzyme business, and they sold it to Novozymes. When they sold it to Novozymes, they sold it along with the employees. So whoever was working along with Biocon was to go and join Novozymes. We had been working for Biocon with a passion of creating our own brand, creating our own values, creating our own niche in the market. Going back and selling a multinational's product who had been competing with us was something very difficult to digest for us. That point of time, we also looked at an opportunity because we were a dominant player in the business of enzymes at that point of time in Biocon, in Indian market. There was going to be a big vacuum there. We we took an opportunity. As it is, our another team had started a CRO business, contract research and development business. Myself and my fellow, my colleague, UDCT, another UDCTN who had been working with me during Biocon tenure also, Mr. Malay Barua. Both of us started taking up product business, building up the enzyme business, and creating our own niche there. And that is how we started Anthem Bioscience, Anthem Solutions those days. Subsequently, it got merged into Biosciences and we became Anthem Biosciences. So that was an opportunity we took. Yeah.
So in fact, you saw an opportunity in what would say was a major turning point in your career when your company was sold to another. I mean, there was a acquisition by other company, and you saw quite an opportunity there. Itself is, you know, that is how I would say, I would tell all the youth or participants here, present here, that is how you find out opportunities for yourself, you know. So it was that the company was sold to another company, and now, I mean, instead of regretting or thinking ki, now how do I'm going to manage in a larger company, rather you chose to find an opportunity in that and probably started your own business. That's really commendable. Thank you very much.
Later part of your question is, how did you, what are the challenges you, I mean, we enjoyed the journey. Last 15, 16 years, we have been working on this particular objective of creating our own niche. We started it from making invoices, picking label, packing up the things, loading, unloading. After doing, say, 12, 15 years work, if you are going to do the same thing again, it is very difficult, especially on your ego. So we have to keep that all aside and start working from the basics again. We did that. We enjoyed our journey. We were passionate about our work. Problems were part of life. We took them as new challenge, get new opportunity, get converted into business. We started from scratch. Today, after 15 years, we are like 1,500 crores company. We do have 2,000 people working with us. Primarily, 70% of that are in the area of research, predominantly research. We are one of the largest research organization of the country. We are the third largest research organization of the country in the area of biotechnology field. And apart from that, we do have a fairly big product business as well.
This is really motivational, sir. Thank you very much. Yeah. I now request Meghna to take up the round 2 of questions.
It was wonderful listening to Mr. Rupesh, and the 2 important lessons that he gave was to turn a crisis into an opportunity, and definitely to leave ego when we are looking at entrepreneurship. I think I've heard this from several other people who venture out of their jobs into business. And this is one of the very, very important points that I think all of us have to keep in mind. And dear students, we would really urge you to take up the small learnings from each of the panelists and the way they are highlighting each of the important things. So in the second round, I would pose this question to Sudha, Shri, Dr. Subhojit and Rohit. And the question is, do you think that India and Indians are considered equivalent to their global counterparts in any of the international forums or all of the international forums? I would like to have your take on all of this. Yeah, Sudha, you can begin. Yeah.
Yeah, I think being a woman, I'm asked to answer all the questions first. But my answer, or at least would be based on my experience. You know, in the last 10 years that I work for an international brand, or for the last 30 years that I work for the international brands, I clearly feel Indians are considered at par, definitely at par in most sections, and in some areas we are considered superior. You know, especially if it's technical, if it's research, if it's IT, within the food industry, you know, anything which is to do with manufacturing and technology, Indians are definitely given preference. Preference over the other nationalities who also export talent. And I also feel, as Indians, because we are ruled by Britishers for 100 years, our English is pretty good as compared to other countries. So we are understood better, we understand better. And also as a country, most nationalities love working with us. They feel Indians are very polite, very hardworking. And, so I think we bring both beauty and brains to the table. So which is why we are considered absolutely at par, because that was been my experience thus far within the industry. What definitely comes to my mind is that I must share is that when we compare ourselves with our counterparts across the globe, what is definitely important is we shouldn't consider ourselves any shorter or be less confident just because we are Asians or we have a darker skin or any of those things. I mean, I often see that being as a barrier with few people. But if you go out there, put your hard work and present yourself, communicate well, then you are taken at par as anyone else that would be a Britisher or an American. So yeah, I mean, I would completely agree that we have the opportunity and we are considered at par.
Yeah, I think I would chime in and say that yes, I already said this before that we our degrees are recognized. That's very important, right? Barring some medical degrees which are not recognized in the US and they have to pass through an extra examination. But by and large, at least the higher education degrees are mostly recognized and they are worth it, at least, particularly because of our ability to communicate in a language that they are also comfortable in. So I think that key is very important, that because we are able to communicate, we are able to get there faster. So rather than somebody who has a learning curve, who has to go through another extra mile, learn an extra mile to be able to get there. Besides that, I think, as I said, the other thing that I quite noticed in my experience is the work ethics. Like, maybe it's, and I don't know if it's a boon or a bane, but we tend to work extra hours. So as an employer, that always is highlighted to the employer. If the employer notices that so and so XYZ persons are more hardworking, and I would see that in many of my labs, many of the PIs, many of the principal investigators would largely have like Asian workhorses, right? So to speak. We noticed that we would be the ones mostly working long hours and so on and so forth. So these two things I think used to set us apart: the ability to communicate and as well as the dedication to our work that we bring in. I would pass it on to the other speakers as well.
Yeah, good point. I mean, what I have seen in the last 30 years when I travel abroad and been in Switzerland or in US for quite some time, probably the Indians are good in applications. Wherever there are application-oriented job profile or work, we are good at that. Like working on various Google products, we probably are the best. But none of us has developed a Google. We haven't come out with Facebook. We haven't come out with WhatsApp. So we are good in utilizing the applications or working in the application environment, or we are good in management skills. We are the best managers. It's proving across the world. Many of the top leaders in various companies are Indians. So we are good in the management. What we are lacking is, in my view, is the core research work, or the research what we do, linking that research with the application. That's where we are lacking. Secondly, what we lack is in working on the material science. Material science is another subject where we don't have anything considerable amount of work that is being done by any one of us. Like, I come from textiles. I can easily copy a product which has been developed in various countries, a technical textile. But never I come out with a product which is of my own, which the world is going to use. So that's where we probably are lagging. And I'm sure with the kind of funding that government is bringing in, we will make inroads in some of these areas like core sciences or material sciences. That's my view.
I beg your pardon, Srinidhi. I don't agree with you. I don't think we are lacking in basic research. It's all about the motive. When we started our company, we had the idea about creative spirit and intelligent application. As you rightly found out, application we will be. But then now going forward, we came up with basic research. We are there in the area of chemistry and biology. We started from minuscule thing. We were hardly 28, 30 people working in the beginning. Basically, passion is required. And money need to be kept little aside. It has to be a byproduct. It can't be your primary thing to run a business. You need to have a passion to create something for the society, for the people around you. You need to be little compassionate about the things. If that is there, and you need to leave that greed in the beginning. What happens? You come up with something. What happened with us? I would tell. In the beginning, people tempted us with some money that, yeah, you give up the business to us. We will be giving you 10 million, 20 million, 25 million. I mean, we didn't give up. We kept on doing it. Last year, when we saw 15 years, we went for a VC funding. Our valuation was 1 billion.
Wow.
It all came because of basic research, sticking with integrity to our core competency, and cutting no corners on quality of the services or the products we deliver to people. I think we are moving in a right direction. See, basically what as Dr. Nagpurkar was telling, our GDP is increasing, our per capita income is increasing, disposable income in people's hand is coming more. If that is happening, naturally you have more purchase power. The more purchase power, automatically market get enhanced. India is becoming a very big market place. That's why the big countries like US, European countries, they can't come against Indian policies and bully them. That is where we have a strength as of now, because our per capita income is increasing. Definitely country will do good. So I mean, there is no reason of brain drain. People will have to come back. They will be compelled to come back. There is no other go for them. Because here the economy is growing at 8, 9%, 10%. Everywhere else, it is 1%, 2%, 2.5%. With a great difficulty, China is at 4, 4.5%. So people have no choice than coming back to India.
Very true.
Yeah, it is up to us where exactly we want to be. Even if I am an ordinary person, I am able to do good because I am in India. The same kind of skills, I may not be able to do good in Australia or America, which will be the case. If I am an extraordinary guy, definitely tomorrow another Elon Musk will be coming up, emerging up from the Indian subcontinent. We just need to keep self-confidence high. That's it. I think that will do the job.
True.
I'll possibly also take a dig at it and answer this question a little differently. I think we were asked whether Indians and India is considered equivalent to the global counterpart. In many companies these days, actually, that's generally not even a question that's encouraged big time. It's all about diversity, equity, inclusion. So when you talk about this, people don't talk as much about nationality and so on. In fact, people have seen that a diverse boardroom with whether it's a nationality, whether it's gender, whether it's LGBT, all of this actually brings value to a boardroom. And those companies are seen a lot more profitable than companies who are not diverse in nature in terms of what kind of talent they hire. So from my perspective, really, I think we should ask ourselves, what value are we bringing to the table? We should not worry about whether I'm an Indian or I end up getting into a different passport or whatever. I think it's all about what value do you bring to the table. And I think most of the multinational companies these days talk about DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and they would not even bother about nationality and so on. In fact, they would encourage certain nationalities to be present more than they are because they want to expand globally.
I would like to add to, I'm glad Rohit steered the discussion in this direction. And I mean, like it or not, globalization, that's what globalization brought in, right? Because it brought the world to the table. Now we have to keep, whether we liked it or not, we are being dragged into recognizing these spaces that we were blind to earlier, like the LGBT space that you pointed out, for example. And to become a successful nation, when we are having dignitaries which we are hosting from abroad, we have to recognize their status. They are coming in as two husbands or two wives in our spaces. We have to recognize that, and we have to give them that same space, that same freedom to work with us. So I think the whole globalization factor and that we have to become a nation that is more accepting and more inclusive, and inclusive is very important going forward. Thanks for bringing that point up.
Thank you. To just sum up what all four of you have said, is that definitely Indians are considered not only equivalent to their global counterparts, but they are also valued for the skills and the value addition that they make to the table. And definitely diversity, equity, and inclusion are an important things. So our students can definitely hope that they can have a lot of opportunities, and definitely being Indians or having a different passport would not be a deterrent. So all this, while we are discussing all this, just in one or two words, I would like all of you again to highlight one or two skills which are considered important in the global arena.
I can start. I've always felt communication is one of the key, very, very important skill. Somewhere as students, as entrepreneurs, we at times don't give importance to this very, very important skill. So regardless what stage of your life you are, as a student, as an entrepreneur, as an employee, as a business leader, I think communication is one of a very, very important skill that is globally required. And one must not be satisfied saying that I know English and I can communicate, that we are happy with it. We have to constantly keep working on it to try and see that are you constantly relevant to the audience that you want to appease. I think that is something that each one of us should sit back and evaluate at various stages of growth or career path that you are in. So that would be my take, and I would leave it to the others to pick one that they would like.
Yeah, Mr. Shri?
Communication is one which will take us to various levels across the globe. And secondly, what I see in most of the Indians, we have a strong common sense and a logical thinking. Probably these two aspects of our upbringing will take us through our journey. So we have to be logical, we have to have the common sense, and finally the jugadu thing, what we have in ourselves, that we should keep it alive.
Dr. Subhojit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so as the previous speakers have already commented, communication, resilience, these are very important skills. But I also feel that, as we have discussed in the growing economy, I think besides IQ that we have always held at a pedestal as Indians, I think emotional intelligence is something that we need to develop going forward, because that, today in the world, one of the leading diseases is becoming mental health. And mental health, people are moving to different places, moving in different communities, working in different spaces, in different environments. I think emotional intelligence is something that is a skill that we need to develop, we need to hone. And I think that's where we are lacking to some extent, I feel. So, but Indians are good at adaptive thinking, and I think that's where we tend to, we are able to adapt, we are able to collaborate better because of the language and all the other skills. So collaboration, I think, emotional intelligence and adaptive, responses, adaptive thinking, adaptive workplaces are my key points.
Mr. Rupesh?
To me, the most important quality is integrity. If you have integrity, you believe in yourself, whatever you do, you need to be honest to it. I mean, it is not only about the financial integrity, the integrity towards work, towards knowledge. If that quality is there, automatically the confidence will show up in your work ethics, your communications. Of course, communication is very important tool, but core of the whole thing is integrity. If integrity, dil se karo to kuch bhi ho sakta hai. So integrity is important. That's my take. There are many things we can talk about. Yeah, Rohit, go ahead, please.
I think also it actually, just to be very specific, values, ethics, morals, highest point. But because you've already covered that, I'll actually try to take something called, as I would call it, it's continuous evolution. I think more often than not, we forget that when we get out of universities, we don't stop learning, we start learning. It's a new chapter. 70% of your learning happens on the job as you start working. Many people don't realize this. Many people end up making their own jobs monotonous. And that's exactly not the intent. The intent is you evolve yourself, you actually learn on the job. 70% of your learning has to be on the job. And then of course, on the side, you need to read, you need to talk to people, but a big portion of your learning and continuous evolution happens on the job. So I would also encourage this young population to actually think about job as a learning where you actually get paid. I remember people were talking about stipend and so on in some of the previous session. But I think so far you have been paying to learn. I think as you go into the job market, you're going to learn and you're going to get paid. Make the most of that. Think about that as learning opportunity. Don't just think that it's a job, right? And I think that's what will take you in the right direction.
So to sum up the 5 things that have been come out from all our panelists is communication, logical thinking, EQ, adaptability, integrity, and learn and unlearn. Yeah, so dear students, please focus on all these mantras that our panelists have given. And one special question to Mr. Rupesh is what has been your experience about the Indian products in the global markets? How are they perceived?
I mean, Indian products, yeah, they are good. I mean, we are a company with exports of approximately 75% of our goods and services to regulated markets, Japanese markets. We have certainly created an impression about our products, a credibility in the market. And similar kind of thing is there in the pharmaceutical industry for our fellow manufacturers or fellow entrepreneurs. They do have a highest regards about their quality in India, international market for Indian products. Certainly, yes. And they have to be there. I mean, if in certain areas they are not there, that is because of probably cutting the corners or making some jugaad to complete the order. So that need to be avoided. Complete GMP has to be followed, which is by and large
part comes into picture
exactly
again.
Exactly. I mean, time and wherever you go, integrity doesn't leave you. That's the core.
Meghna, I would like to just add to this, that being in the food industry and developing products for various countries in Asia and Europe and multiple markets, Indian flavors are on the top, apart from Korean flavors, but Indian is on the second best. And which is why a lot of curries and flavors go from India. A lot of spices go from India. And recently for my company, for the 75th Independence Day, most countries are launching an Indian pizza worldwide. So a lot of gravies have just signed up shipments from India to go to all these countries, and many of them are celebrating Indian independence. So that actually shows it's not only because of Indian presence in those countries, because of the talent, but also the world is recognizing us, our flavors, our talent, our food. So it's as I said in the beginning, it's a great time to be a part of this tide for this generation.
Would you like to add something, Rohit? You raised your hand.
No, I was just clapping for Sudha actually.
Okay.
So fantastic.
And to add here that Sudha has also been, she has the credit for launching the Mac Aloo Tikki also, which I think this forum needs to know. And therefore many more from Pizza, Papa John's will also come for the Indian palate. Yeah, over to you, Madhvi, for the next and the final question.
So finally, actually, we just want to, just a one-liner, a kind of a mantra and advice for our participants. That's it. Just a one-liner or a mantra from each one of you.
Mr. Sri.
Sudha can start, yeah.
Okay, mine is not going to be one-liner because I'm going to share what really worked for me. I'm sure Meghna knows about this, but there are three things that really somebody passed to me over the time. One was, number one, that nothing is free or easy. I learned this when I was in college. And in a similar lecture, what somebody shared with me, saying nothing is free or nothing is easy. You really, really need to work hard if you want to be successful. And working hard for something that you don't care, it's called stress. So working hard for something that you like is called passion. So definitely go after things that you like. I chose the food industry and I chose the research and development because I knew I liked doing that, and that's where my passion is. So think differently and do differently. The second most important thing that worked for me is, to take accountability of your action. Sometimes, you are the problem. You can take all the credit for all the things that you did right. Like Meghna just said, launching the Aloo Tikki, doing some great products for McDonald's and so on. So taking the credit for all the things that you did right, as long as you take the responsibility of things that went wrong. It must be a balanced equation. And this is going to happen through the life. There's some things will work and some may not. And you have to take responsibility of both. The third and the most important thing that has helped me tremendously is to take care of each other. I've realized over my 27 years of my career that it's not about how smart or how tough or how strong or how brilliant or how fast you are. You need to be really, really good at helping others, at helping people to your right, at helping people to your left, because that's how people advance in the world. That's how successful people have really been successful. I've realized, in this, my journey of these 15 years of traveling worldwide, that the world is very, very dangerous. And it is very difficult to do things alone. Very difficult. If you know that this is what you want to do and this is your spark, who are you going to ask for help? And when will you accept that help that, when it is offered? You have to learn that skill. You have to learn that skill by practicing that skill daily in your life. To accept help when it is offered and to ask for help when you know that you can't do it, when you know that it's not possible. You just would be amazed to see the number of people who will come around to help you. They were just not there because they didn't know you needed it. So today is tough. Tomorrow is going to be tougher. But I promise you that day after tomorrow, it's going to be brilliant. It's going to be phenomenal. And as Rohit said, your real challenge starts when you leave college. That's when your real exam and your real life starts. So with that, I will hand it over to the other guys to share some of their experiences and mantras of life.
Well, if you look at it, one should have a self-belief. And that's what I have seen in my life in last 30 years of my career progress. You should have self-belief, a strong self-belief. And secondly, for the generation that is coming up, who's looking towards West, what I would always say is believe in your own country. Your country is going to support you a lot. This I have seen in last 10 years. The way the consulate offices abroad are helping most of the industrialists or the exporters like us is I have never seen earlier days. When I was in Japan, we had certain problem with one of the customers, and the customer was not able to understand certain points. We got the help from the consulate office. The officer from consulate came with us to the meeting at Osaka, and he was able to speak in Japanese. So he was able to resolve the particular issue that we had with that particular customer. So our government is ready to support us if we have the intent. Our government is there to help us for the startups. There are a lot of funding opportunities that is coming up. So have self-belief and I believe in your own country, and that is going to take you forward. Thank you.
Dr. Subhajit?
I can take a dig at it if you want.
Yeah. Either of you.
All right. So I'm just going to answer this in two different ways. I'm first going to use some words that I have found very useful. Quality, innovation, consistency, smart work, dedication, meticulousness, and we already spoke about values, ethics, and morals. I think those are some words that are very, very close to me, and that's I believe has worked for me. That is what develops a brand for you as an individual. Each one of us is a brand in itself. I think we need to develop that trustworthy brand for our own selves. As much as we love products with good brand, people also love people who are actually good people to work with. So I think, I don't know what works for each individual. Each individual is different, but these are things that have worked for me. And I think this is how you build your own brand is what I would say. That's part one. I think part two, irrespective of whether you're an entrepreneur, where you are of course supposed to work as if it's, or when it's your own company, but even if you get into a corporate job, work as if it's your own company, take decisions as if this is your own money. I think that will guide you to take better decisions, that will guide you to take responsibilities like what Sudha was saying, and drive accountability towards yourselves as much as you drive accountability in the organization. And I think don't just go there to work and to fill a day. Go there to make a difference. Go there to work as if it's your own company. And I think you will make a big difference. Those are two mantras I have followed. I hope they work for some of you.
Yeah, I mean, Sudha and Rohit has already summarized everything up. I fall back on this. There's this interesting Japanese concept called ikigai. Basically, you have to find what you really like to do. What is that one thing that you really like to do, and then find out whether you're good at it. Whether can you do it better than the others can do, and then of course, is somebody ready to pay you for it? Right. And if somebody is ready to pay you for it, then the last question is that going to be suffice to fulfill your dreams that you want to chalk out for yourself. So I think the first exercise today that you start as a student, as a young entrepreneur, as a young person, will be to first chalk out that what do I really want in life, right? So what will I be happy with? Would I want to be a billionaire? Will I be happy being a quote unquote middle class person? Would I what is it I really want? And then you start your journey from there and try to understand as to what is it that I do, what I'm good at, and what I can get paid for. So all these four things, when they come together, I think that sweet space is what all of us will look for. I personally, going by my experience, I would like to work for something that not that I dreamt for, but rather what would keep me awake. Questions that would keep me awake is what I would work for.
I'll certainly echo Dr. Sen. You should do the things which you are passionate about, you are liking it about. You should not go for the monetary kind of benefits or some kind of practical things which are happening in short-term gains. You should not think about it. Always think on the positive things and deal with negatives. कोशिश करने वालों की हार नहीं होती. लगे रहो. That's what it is. Thank you.
Thank you. It was quite motivational, I suppose, for each and every participant of ours. And we are actually going to have this whole panel discussion, probably the before part of the webinar too, on our YouTube channels. And I only hope that more and more people view this. And this is really, really quite from each one of you. It was the words that came out were extremely motivational and a kind of a guidance for the youth. So thank you very much. And now I would ask Meghna to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
A very promising future as portrayed by all of you. And as we come to the end of the program, it is my duty to propose a formal vote of thanks. My heartfelt gratitude to all our speakers who have spent their valuable time and agreed to deliver the sessions. Dr. Nagpurkar took us through the journey of 75 years of history and highlighted some of the game changers and reiterated the fact that today we have a shared vision for the country, which will definitely take us to greater heights. Dr. Reshamwala lucidly brought forth the various funding opportunities with crisp statistics and highlighted the opportunities that we have for higher education and entrepreneurship. Our panelists, all of us, they are here today, and we had a wonderful interaction, and the mantras given by them have been summed up very nicely to give you, all of you, some important take-home messages. When, as teachers, when we talk about all this in college, it's a very boring and a very routine lecture for them. But I'm sure with your interaction and your life success stories in front of them, they will definitely not take up this as a lecture and take each mantra with them and work hard on all the skills that they need to acquire. We are indeed very grateful to the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Institute of Chemical Technology, Professor Pandit, and respected Principal Dr. Anita Kanwar for not only permitting us to conduct this webinar jointly, but also being very supportive throughout. Thank you, sir, and thank you, ma'am. We thank the Library Committee members of the Institute of Chemical Technology and the Vivekananda Education Society's College of Arts, Science and Commerce for their support. I would especially like to thank our Vice Principal, Dr. Shantini Nair, who helped us to connect with Dr. Subhajit Sen and our alumni, Dr. Madhvi Vaidya, who coordinated with Mr. Nilesh for this crisp video, which we are going to see towards the end. Without the support of our technical team and our back office support, we would not be able to conduct this session. Thank you, Mr. Shashank, and thank you, Akash, for the technical support throughout. Last but not the least, thank you, dear participants, for participating in this webinar. We extend our best wishes to all of you for the future. Signing off on this note, Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
Mr. Shashank, the small video.
Hello all, my name is Nilesh Bohite. I did my bachelor's in computer sciences and then an MBA. Hello all, my name is Nilesh Bohite. I did my bachelor's in computer sciences and then an MBA in human resources. With 18 years of work experience, I have spent more than half of that working outside of India in Paris. It's been a little over a year since I have come back to India, and to cut the long story short, I'm fully convinced that I made the right decision. Some of the reasons that led me to think about returning to India with my family were: India's biggest strengths are one, its population, especially the younger Indian generation. 2, the increasing spendable income in hands of Indians. And lastly, the usage of internet led by availability of mobile phones and inexpensive data. Now, of course, you might think, are these all that we have? Of course not. India has a lot of other strengths too, such as great quality and affordable talent and many more. These strengths make India an attractive destination for several other countries to enter, invest, and build their businesses. I represent the fast-moving consumer goods industry, and even in that, I am from the beauty and the cosmetic sector. When we talk about the European or the North American markets, or even when we speak about some of our North Asian countries, these countries have now become saturated markets. Businesses in these countries are growing, but these growth figures are single digits in nature. Hence, to have accelerated growth, companies look towards India, where the consumers have the aspiration to upgrade themselves in terms of products they use and want to use, as well as have the money to spend on buying these products. With such a high potential, companies want to invest in the country, and hence India becomes a very good place, a great place for professionals like you and I to learn and work. Such investments are bringing along with them the resources, means that we need to experiment and, very importantly, innovate. Moving on, our talents, the Indian talent, the human capital that we have in this country has been educated in our great institutions. Today, if you look at global organizations, you will find many Indian men and women at the CEO or other top positions. India teaches you to do the best in the least amount of resources. Frugality has been taught to us since our childhood, and this virtue significantly differentiates us from some of our global peers who have had the best infrastructure from their childhood, unlike us, and hence they didn't have to struggle or compromise as we did. So, to summarize, to keep it short, and what are the key messages or key reasons that made me come to India are: first, India has the best affordable talent. Second, India as a market is lucrative and promises high business growth, thereby pushing organizations to make significant investment in the country, which means that people or professionals like you and us have accelerated career growth opportunities, accelerated developmental opportunities. And lastly, the young India represents a huge market potential whose size equates to the population of several European countries. So all in all, India is a land of opportunities, not only for us, but also for the entire world.
This video kind of summed up our entire discussion, and so I thought it's appropriate to have it towards the end of the panel discussion.